welcome to our Remote Agile session about delving into the basics, a few tips and tricks on how to facilitate Agile events in a remote setting with distributed teams. We're not going to have a presentation, of course not. It will all be based on liberating structures and on principles that derive from training from the back of the room. So we will work heavily with a Zoom feature called breakout rooms, which allows us to work in smaller groups and then come back together again. We will be sharing results via the Google Docs, and we will also use Fun Retro IO for a few of the processes in between, like voting and sorting and aggregating and all that falls into that area. We will start with an impromptu networking. But before that, let me quickly point out a few issues with the breakout rooms. So breakout rooms, I believe, is the killer feature of Zoom because it allows to engage everyone participating directly, because now you can work in small groups. On the other side, as a facilitator, it's really tricky to stay in communication with the breakout rooms because I have no way of basically listening in unless I enter a breakout room at the risk of probably not getting back into the main room. I can't talk to you. All I have is basic rudimentary text function that allows me to create a pop-up window in the breakout rooms and then communicating to you. This is not very convenient, but that's the way it currently works. All I can do is initiate breakout rooms and end breakout rooms. So you will see how this works. It's really not rocket science. Breakout rooms are the reason why you want to have a pro account from Zoom, because it's not available in the free account, but it's totally worth it. So speaking of which, a few other thoughts. We will be using the official chat of Zoom only for official messaging. So if I send you URLs or like now, some prepared text strings that explain what I'm telling you at the moment anyway. I will also provide you with URLs this way. For example, if you like to communicate via a chat tool, use the Slack channel that was created for that purpose. Right. However, I will not be monitoring that channel. So that will be a bit too much because I have to take time and juggle with several applications here at the same time. Okay. Any questions at the moment? Mm-hmm. So we have 30 people. That's a nice group. Okay. So what I'd like you to do before I transfer you into the breakout rooms is spend 2 minutes in silence and think about the 3 questions that we usually have with impromptu networking. So that would be, what is your most challenging professional issue that you're facing at the moment? Secondly, how can you contribute to make this a success for everyone involved? And thirdly, what would you like to take home from this session? So why are you here? How can you help to make this a success for everyone? And what do you want to have for yourself? So 2 minutes, and in the meantime, I prepare the breakout rooms and then I transfer you. This is all done automatically. All you have to do is push a button. Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, so let me click on the button to create the breakout sessions. Okay, Tatjana, was führt dich her?
I left the breakout session because I couldn't see anybody else, but now I think I've seen a button to go back there. I will try.
Okay, good. I assume that everyone is back. breakout rooms. As you may have noticed, the communication can be a bit awkward. It also depends on whether other people are actually willing to join or are not willing to join. So we had a few cases where where the pair didn't start talking. However, I think nevertheless it's a great way of doing this. So next step. Let me share my desk again so that you can all see this breakout window session window. So there's an option that we actually can create new sessions. So you can either bring the same people back into a breakout room, or you can start a complete new setup. So in the case of impromptu networking, of course, we all want to have a new round. This is why we do this. So the Excel file that some of you see is basically a script for the whole event here. I will share that with you via email anyway, so you can have a pattern template for that. So next step after the first round of impromptu networking will be to have a second round, then a third round. We skipped the second round, but the third round will be more interesting. So because we will need to gather some data, and the data you need to collect from your partner in this second and last round. So what I would like to ask is that you take some notes. About your partner's major professional concern at the moment. And secondly, how you would describe your partner in a single sentence. Again, we will allocate about 5 minutes time for that. And after 2 minutes, I will send you a text that you should probably come to an end or switch roles. I know impromptu networking typically is something like more a chat and not the original intent, in the sense of yes, one is actively listening, the other one is sharing, but I think this is acceptable. So okay. So I'm just sending another text, another 2 minutes to the people in the breakout rooms.
Stefan, apparently I was alone in breakout room number 2. No one was joining.
Yes, I can see it. So there's no function that allows to collect and reassign people who did not join on the fly.
Yeah.
The only way to do this is basically you have to do it by hand, and this is a bit tricky. So it would be nice to say, okay, all remaining 4 people put into 2 breakout rooms.
Okay.
So it's not designed for the purpose that people are not available at the start of the sessions.
Yeah, I understand.
So that's a bit of a drawback, but otherwise it's still a good functionality.
Yes, WebEx allows it also.
So let me stop the sessions. They will all be back in about 25 seconds.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. That was our brief excursion into breakout rooms, and we will have those over the course of the afternoon several times more. So you may have noticed the technology is not yet perfect. So a few people arrived late, and it's very hard to add them or to create from available people new breakout rooms. I can just add them manually somewhere else. However, I cannot create. I'll have to give it a try, but I can create empty breakout rooms in advance, or if he's distributing, we will see. I will give it a try. So great technology, however, not perfect at the moment. So by now you should have at least one concern noted from your interview partner, and you should probably have already a sentence that would describe your interview partner. Please keep this information, because we will use it as data for the following sessions that we have here. So we started immediately in the work mode, in the sense that there is no death by PowerPoint. You know, we just started working and networking and engaging our participants. And I believe this is by far the best way of doing this. So embrace liberating structures and the idea of inclusion and providing everyone with a voice. Embrace training from the back of the room principles, like let the people figure out how this is supposed to work. Your job is to facilitate and guide the people to the experience and that they themselves will actually create. It's okay to have teaching blocks. For example, like this one. So yes, by now you should see my Safari browser. Can you see it?
Nope.
No, I see an Excel file.
Nope. I still Excel file here as well.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So no death by PowerPoint. This is the most important part, I believe, that we should all take away from this. Keeping sessions short is also another critical thing. So we already have a quite long session today by the standards. 2.5 hours is really the maximum that you can actually, as a facilitator, also handle, because it is quite stressful. And you have to do a lot of things at the same time, juggle with several applications. For example, this is Chrome, Zoom, and Excel, because I store some of the information I put into the chat in the Excel file. And we use the browser for all the rest. So keeping it short is essential, which, by the way, is also a positive thing, because it is so much easier to handle these in 2 hours, because after that you have the rest of the day where you can do something else. So people do not feel excluded from the normal operational work. This is, I believe, a big advantage. Avoid hybrid meetings. A hybrid meeting, by my definition, is a meeting where a few people are sitting in the room and a few people, remote people, are dialing in, so to speak. The problem with that is that you create basically 2 classes of participants. And it usually ends up that the people in the room who can see each other and who can directly collaborate and communicate with each other more or less take over the meeting in some cases. This is creating an imbalance that is, I believe, not a good way to proceed. So whenever I have someone who's dialing in from the outside, I ask everyone else to also dial in, no matter whether they're located in the same building. So everyone has the same surrounding and the same experience. It's completely different to feel or to not being able to smell the room and read the room by comparison to other people who are co-located in the room. There's always an imbalance in the communication, and that might have serious implications.
So basically what you're saying is if there are people offline and you sit next to each other, then still go online.
Yep.
That makes sense for bigger groups.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if we have 80 people joining, then it's easy for us to get 30 people in one country, 20 in another country, and another 15 in another country, to group them together rather than overload the tools and the internet with all those connections coming from the same building.
So my experience, at least Zoom can handle if the network capacity is at a normal standard, let me put it this way. So it shouldn't be a major concern. And by the way, Zoom as an application is scaling very nicely. So they did a good job as far as technology is concerned. I mean,
but then again, with bigger group, you can't really see everybody with the gallery view. If you have people grouped together in one room, you get the camera and see the group.
That's a point. That's a point. But I believe that the creation of a shared environment where everyone is at a similar level, I wouldn't say impaired, but hindered or reduced in the cognitive abilities, is more positive than I cannot see everyone.
Okay, thanks.
So that's my learning. At least I've been doing that for a few years now, and it's working. give it a try. You have to try anyway, anything that we discuss here on your own. So be the first one. I started 30 minutes early. That's generous, but at least 15 minutes early. And by starting early, I mean you need to be full up to speed. So everything is working, you're set up and ready to go. I usually would set up a working agreement at the beginning, or probably even start the discussion earlier on that. So critical part from my side would be always on. So always broadcast a video signal if your bandwidth allows for it. Mute yourself if you're not talking, to avoid background noise that is a bit disturbing or confusing, irritating, whatever you like to call it. So the classic is always that someone is at the same time typing on a loud keyboard, you know, or making phone calls or something like that. It's not nice. Muting triggers a sort of latency in the communication. So people maybe probably have to reach out to unmute themselves, and then they can answer. So it always takes 2 or 3 seconds. So it requires a bit more patience on our side. It's not this fast-paced chit chat that we usually have when we're somewhere co-located. That is not working. And also be aware that language is an issue or can be an issue. So I always like to refer to it, try to be a sarcasm-free environment, because there are so many little things that people can notice in face-to-face communication that simply do not translate to this distributed setup. So rolling eyes while you say something is information that is valuable for the interpretation on the other side. You can't roll your eyes here. You know, and if you put something in the chat, it's cold, it's bureaucratic, and you really have to think about what kind of language you're using. So maybe that's a point that we should also talk to our participants in advance, or maybe even have a training if you do this regularly from now on. Enough, let's move on. That is a critical part. The moment we start nerding about some issues here and we take too much time, please enter Elmo into the chat, and we can then decide to put an issue on the parking lot, which will be integral as well. The parking lot is, okay, now you see this juggling I was referring to earlier. So that is a very simple parking lot. The good thing about Fun Retro is that they have a free version that allows you to have 3 public boards, and they're perfectly well suited for the purpose that we have here today. So for example, all you have to do is add something. You can move them, of course, and even more interestingly, you can also merge them. So this just works nicely. So whenever you come across something that you actually would like to discuss in the Q&A session, just put a ticket in here. It's trivial, it's free of charge, and I have never had any trouble with any firewall inside whatever corporation that would lock me out of Fun Retro. Okay, you probably don't want to put sensitive data in there because you don't know where it's hosted and what's happening to it later. But the usual communication, for example, is totally fine. You could put it in here. It works really nicely. And of course, you can have a paid version, or you can use Retrium or whatever other tool is out there to do this in a more organized and more governance compatible fashion here. What I kindly ask you to do in the next step is that you go back to the critical major concern that your partner had during your impromptu networking in the 3rd round, and put this in the... That's a good point, Peter. And please put it in this other Fun Retro board that I prepared, the URL I just provided to you. And that is this one. It's called Remote Agile Greatest Concerns. you have 3 columns just for the purpose that if 30-something people are at the same time adding tickets to the board, it's sometimes a bit crowded if you only have 1 column. So just use all 3 columns to add the tickets. And then in the second round, we are going to aggregate, cluster all the tickets because there will be overlapping concerns. So we probably end up with about 8 to 10 issues that we have actually. Okay, so I give you 4 minutes to add the concern of your partner to this board. And then we have another 5 minutes that we use for clustering and aggregating the issues. Oh, you're starting. Thank you very much. Okay, who's still typing? So the next round is going to be clustering and aggregating. There will be several topics named several times. So what I want you to do is basically drag and drop those together that belong together. All you have to do is basically move one over the other, and then you said, yes, I merge it, and otherwise, okay, not cancel. Just do so. We use the Wikipedia principle here. We just stop doing it at the end of the time box, which I start now. It's 5 minutes, or we just stop and no tickets are moving any longer.
Question, can you unmerge the cards?
Unmerge? Well,
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Because there's, I think, accidental clustering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Copy and paste.
That happens from time to time, don't worry. I mean, the only way to do this is basically create a new card and delete part of the content of the old one. It's, maybe they don't want us to do that because we're not paying our $8 a month here. So 2 minutes left. Or do you believe we're good to go? Tickets moving. Looks quite okay to me. So we have 8, 11. Yeah. What would we expected? Okay. Could you merge all this of the 3 columns into one? Handling clustering works by drag and drop. You just pull one over the other and then you release it. And then you ask whether to merge or cancel it. Okay, so what we're using Fun Retro here is basically a free of charge lean coffee environment. So creating agendas and taking them to the next step. And that was the first part. We took the data we got from the impromptu networking, and now we created basically a backlog of issues we can discuss, or we should discuss. That we will start doing so after the break. Before we do so, however, I want you to do something else. You also had a description of your partner. I would like to add this description into the following Google Doc. That is this one here. So I will give you another 3 minutes for that.
Including name or not?
No. Just, yeah, well, I don't think that naming Manfred is a big of an issue here. Okay, 3 minutes. So I guess you're already noticing what is happening. I mean, find it really impressive that the technology is working. I mean, 30 people are at the same time working on this document and somehow it works.
How can I enter an entrance? How can I make an entrance?
You just click in there.
That does not work.
You should.
You need to go to chats.
Okay, good. Good, Marius, good point. There's a URL in the chat window to the Google
To the
Doc.
chat window.
Yeah. That's why you.
But you need to have Google Doc.
Yeah, that's why I asked you to test this in advance. Because it's sometimes not working.
No, yeah.
Doesn't help.
Okay, I think we can stop here. I think you all notice what is happening. So, 10+ people working on the same doc is simply somehow always ending up in some sort of chaos. I mean, it's impressive that the technology is working, but forget about any kind of formatting that you thought about before to make this easier to understand or whatever. It will all be broken. Secondly, if you use special tools, ask in advance and ask people in advance to install them and make sure that they're working. And probably depending on the task ahead of you. For example, if you're using one of the big online whiteboards like Mural or Miro, you will actually need to have a session in advance where you think about how to make the technology work, because people will not immediately be comfortable with the technology. And the moment people feel that technology is not working, they feel excluded, and this will make them very unhappy and also diminish the return of the whole session. So make sure that everyone understands the tools in advance, make sure that everyone tests the tools in advance. And if it's something important in the sense that the outcome of the meeting is highly expected, etc., pp., make sure, and you're using special tools like Mural, make sure that you train the people in advance, because Mural as well as Miro, for example, very popular at the moment, are not self-explanatory. By comparison to the Google Doc, the Google Doc is simple. Okay, good. So we will have a short break in about 3 minutes. This is another lesson learned. We like to keep the whole session short, so 2.5 hours, and have regular breaks. So a break meaning I usually like to have 10 minutes of a whole hour as a break, where you can actually stand up and stretch your legs and do something else. Just move around, grab a coffee, maybe play with the dog or whatever, so that you get a break from this quite stressful session that we're facing here at the moment. There was one thing I wanted to address. What equipment do I need? Mine is still completely improvised. As is my apartment, it was never intended to be a home studio. So I ordered a green screen that will, I don't know when, be delivered. At the moment, everything is very hard to come by. I also ordered a cam light, so that the lighting is a bit more advantageous by comparison, but I don't know when it's going to be delivered. What you should really put attention to is a decent microphone, because believe it or not, even though we're talking on video here, the sound quality is much more important than the video quality. People get really, really annoyed by a bad sound. If you want to make sure you can have a bad video quality, it doesn't matter as long as the audio quality is good, that people want to listen. Turn it the other way around and people will start dropping out because it's so exhausting to listen to bad audio. Probably you don't hear everything, then you feel sort of excluded. You don't have access to all the information. You may be feeling there's something, you're missing out on something. It's really not good. And it's also rather exhausting to listen to bad audio for 25, 30, 50 minutes. Just think about how you're handling podcasts. Bad podcast audio quality, you just stop listening to it. And this is the same in the meeting. I like to use headphones. It makes it easier to understand what the participants are saying. Screen space. I actually like to have more screen space. So at the moment, I'm just using my MacBook and I feel somehow limited because I like to have more overview. I think I will start experimenting with using 2 laptops at the same time, so I can log in with 2 users to the same session. So have a bit more control and don't have to switch between, for example, the Excel sheet and the Zoom application here. Too bad at the moment, Zoom is not providing any space where I can store text strings that I can use in the chat, so prepared text strings. Because what I don't like to do is actually start typing while I'm talking to you. I'm not good at multitasking. I'm very human in that respect. So cameras, I'm just using a Logitech HD camera. It's not a big thing. Probably the laptop camera will be fine as well, but it's not a big thing. Conference cameras, if you have several people in the room and you like to broadcast a signal, these conference cameras are intended to show the gesture and the faces of the people. They're not designed to show, for example, something that you write on the whiteboard, on the physical whiteboard. This is simply not working. If you have to write something in these kind of meetings, please use some kind of online tool and share the online tool, preferable by the URL, so you have direct access to it, otherwise by screen sharing. That is significantly more suitable for everyone involved. Okay, any questions so far?
Stefan, is this presentation going to
Yes.
end up as at us, the people that are, yeah?
You have access to everything.
Yeah, thank you.
So you can download the files, etc. I will send an email.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have had our fair share of breakout room drama, screen sharing drama, and people not being allowed into breakout rooms and people leaving breakout rooms. This is very common. And every time it's a new setup, it's a new variation.
People not being able to use the tools.
So we're all figuring this out, which, by the way, if you can have a co-host, this would be a good idea. You know, from particularly in the beginning, I got used to some of the stuff meanwhile, so it's not freaking me out any longer. But at the beginning, it is stressful. It can be stressful. So doing this as a duo, for example, is significantly easier, and it's calming the nerves also. Ivan asked whether I use the whiteboard functionality of Zoom then. I'm not sure. What I like to use is my iPad Pro with a pencil, and the Zoom app that is available for iPads, because then I can use paper on my iPad Pro and I have a decent pencil and I can write on this. This is actually a good substitution for a paper whiteboard. If you share the iPad then. The whiteboard function within Zoom, I'm not so excited about that one. Paper is significantly easier to use, and if you're familiar with paper, it's so much more fun to do that. Okay, 1700. We spent an hour on this. I would like to take a 10-minute break. Okay. If you have any questions, I will be back in 3 minutes. But otherwise, I encourage you to, well, walk around a bit, stretch your legs, open the window, catch some air. I think you get the idea. Okay, welcome back everyone. So I hope you enjoyed the break and you're good to go for the second half. This time we're going back to the fun retro board that we were just working on with the greatest concerns. You may have noticed that you can actually vote on those. And at the moment, I disabled the votes. I forgot to do so at the beginning, as you can see here. That we should do as well. So, and now you have 6 votes. And I'd like to ask you to vote on these. The point of hiding the votes is that we do not want to create a bias, so some kind of group bias, and you start allocating your votes to the tickets that already have the most votes. By hiding the votes until the end, we actually ensure that everyone is allocating the votes to the tickets he or she is interested in, and does not feel pressured into voting for something else. Okay, so I will now enable voting. And voting is simple. You can see here at the right hand this little thumb up and down, and you basically each have 6 votes. And for the next 4 or 5 minutes, I kindly ask you to allocate your votes. And at the end, we will view the votes and order the list by the number of votes. You vote by...
So we have 4 clusters, yeah? 5 clusters.
You can vote on any of those. And you can vote several times, so you can allocate your 6 votes in any way you want. Is anyone experiencing difficulties in voting?
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. I can't, whatever I do, if I click on it, I can add ideas, but I cannot. It seems
that is strange.
Did you click on the little thumb icon on the right hand side?
Likes?
Yeah, like the likes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Association.
So as a facilitator and other tools, you would, for example, see how many votes are still missing. I mean, we're 32 people by 6 votes. The math's easy. It's 192, and you can actually see, okay, how many votes are missing. And some tools even tell you who is not voting, so you can actually reach out to the individuals. This is, of course, not working here in the free version, but there are other tools out. For example, if you like to use Retrium at the moment, it's free in the professional version until for another 4 weeks or something like that. Okay, please come on to the end. So what we can do next is basically click the button View Voting. And now we have all the number of votes, as you can see here. And the next step would be to say, okay, order by votes. Then we actually have a descending list of tickets based on the number of votes they have. So what we've been doing so far is basically we utilize the impromptu networking to gather data on top of getting to know each other a bit. Then we aggregated this data, and now we have a ranking, created a ranking. So basically we slip from an impromptu networking into a lean coffee. And this is precisely the way we will continue working. So as you may imagine, the next step will be to, okay, let's work on the tickets, right? And we do this in the form of an open space. So, or basically in the sort of format of an open space. What I will do now is divide you up into 6 breakout sessions. So here will be teams of 5 to 6 people. At the same time, I will provide you with Google Slides. Let me get that's a Google presentation. So what I like to do now is basically form 6 teams via the breakout rooms. Then you get some time to work on the issues that is allocated to you, so to speak. So team 1 will be working on issue number 1 from the big list. Team 2 will be working on number 2, 3, or number 3, etc. pp. It's a simple pattern. It's not so nice that you can freely associate and grab the topic that you want, but this way we get stuff done. and we have the same we have a shared experience at this level. I would say that is good enough for the learning purpose. So and what I kindly ask you to do is basically go to your team's sheet, add the concern. Okay, what are we talking about here? And then come up with some solutions how you would tackle it. By solutions, I mean the classic 15% solution. So come up with ideas how to tackle the issue that we're talking about in a manner that does not require applying for any budget, and it does not need to get any kind of approval from higher instances. Okay, so come up with ideas what to do about this that you can basically do tomorrow on your own decision without depending on anyone else.
Stefan, I see the same ordering we had before, so it seems like when you order by vote, it's only for your view and not for mine.
You have to do it by yourself on the website. And so on, and then sort by votes. You have every one of you has to do it by yourself.
Good point. Thank you. But that was new to me as well.
Sort order. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a pop-up menu at the upper left corner next to the fun retro logo.
Are we going to be sent to our separate groups multiple times, one for each box?
No.
Or
no.
Are we only working on the top box?
Yes. No,
we're only working on the top box.
No, we work at the top 6 boxes at the same time, but we have 6 teams, and the teams will stay together for about 10 minutes. And after that, each team is presenting their findings.
So team 1 is working on box 1 and team 2 is working on box 2?
Precisely, exactly.
Okay.
It's taking a bit self-organization out of the process, I admit, but it's a very effective means to actually engage a larger group of people and working on critical issues at the same time and come up with some ideas.
Okay.
So we're merging this open space idea based on our lean coffee and the data we got from the impromptu networking, and now we create some solutions here at the same time. So for example,
I can only view the shared document, so there's still the sign view only.
Which one are you referring to, Annette?
The Google Doc, the open space, Remote Agile.
Yes, me too.
Open space. It's only.
This is insane. No, sorry. This is.
Easy solution. If you open it up, you have the drop down, and you can be only to editable for all. But I think it's only you, Stefan, who can do it.
Now I see you. Okay.
Yeah, it's working now.
Okay, so let me start the breakout rooms, so you know which one are you working on.
I have a question because we are going to be using the boxes from Retro, right? And we should tackle them from the most popular or most
top
voted
down. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't know if everybody else has the same issue, but I don't see them in the ranking from most popular to not. So I see.
You have to order them yourselves.
Okay. All right.
So upper left corner next to the icon, there's a drop down menu. It's called sort.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
In sort, there is votes.
I put a comment on each cluster which says team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 respectively.
Peter, thanks a lot. I will now start the sessions. Okay. So you're about 5 to 6 people, and we take I would say about 8 minutes to come up with the 15% solutions, and then I call you back, and then we have a brief shift and share and go through.
I think the time is a bit too short.
But then we continue this.
Yeah, is there an opportunity to go back to the breakout room for me?
Yeah, I have to restart the breakout rooms.
Ah, okay.
So first everyone has to get back.
Yeah.
I also need to go back to the same room as Matthias. We just wanted to share our thoughts.
Yeah, sorry, it was a mistake from my side. I clicked on the link and then I was back in the main session, and that was a mistake.
For me, it was the same. I wanted to see the background and I clicked.
Okay, so maybe 60 seconds from my side. So we had the interesting effect that some people couldn't join. And the only thing that you can do at the moment is you transfer someone who hasn't joined a breaking room into another breaking room, breakout room. And then from that other breakout room back to the original breakout room. So it's a kind of back and forth game, but this is working actually. What we can't do is once we started the process of terminating a breakout room, that we prolong it and that we break off the breakout, so to speak. So what we have to do now is basically, if you need more time to work on this, we actually have a bit more time for this. So I would give you another 5 minutes that I have to restart the breakout room groups again. The good thing is that Zoom is supporting this, so it still understands, okay, these are the old room, breakout room groups that we had before. So it's just pushing the button and we're good to go for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Will another 5 minutes be enough? Or do you want to have 7 minutes?
Or from my point of view, we need 2 or 3 because we are in the writing process.
Okay.
Yeah, short.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're finished.
What? Where's finishing?
So hello everyone.
Hi.
We're back. So how is working as a group in breakout rooms?
Difficult.
Terrible. I lost connection completely.
Quite good. Oh yeah, but we were breaking down. The connection was breaking down a bit. It's true.
It's getting used to.
Was okay for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that worked okay.
We were just discussing the optimal size of a breakout room group. We didn't really come to an agreement yet. There was no disagreement.
4 to 5 people usually works okay. 6 is getting a bit crowdy. 7 or 8, then basically a few people will drop out of the discussion. Then 2 or 3 people will have the most of the airtime in the communication of the group. And I believe this is defying the purpose, so I'd rather have small groups and more of them than fewer and larger groups. It's our main tool of driving engagement of the participants within the meeting. You know, make them forget that they're actually just sitting in front of the screen.
This is only possible with the Pro version, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But,
there's also a lot of work that can be done in triads. So 3 people is also often very good for many formats.
Yeah. So I believe 5, 6 groups are totally fine. And like Peter mentioned, smaller groups are better than larger groups. 2 maybe too few, but 3 to 4 is a good size. They actually get things done, which is a good thing. Okay, so let me wrap up. We appropriated impromptu networking not just to get to know each other, but also to gather some data. We aggregated and clustered the data and voted on the data in the form of a lean coffee. Now we had breakout rooms and teamwork, group work to come up with some 15% solutions. So something that you could start tomorrow without asking anyone or without asking for a budget. And what we do now is basically a shift and share. We go through the individual slides, and I kindly asked one from every group to actually explain to us what they came up with, what the concern was in the first place, and then what they suggest how to deal with that. We have 6 groups, so I would say 2 minutes each. Group number 1, who would like to start?
So we decided of all the concerns in our ticket to choose the memorable online workshops, and we just throw all the ideas here. So one of the tips was to know your audience well, because then you can adjust your voice tone and tempo of the workshop to prepare carefully from the user's perspective, not from your own perspective. To explain all the technicalities of the workshop. So tell your audience what will happen, how you're going to do it, provide all the materials beforehand, using easy methods, so to make sure that everybody can participate to the fullest. Gamification, so maybe make some more fun activities during it, like here painting together in an online whiteboard. Make it as interactive as possible, including practical tasks and maybe questions and answer sessions to engage the audience more. To address the emotions, because the dry facts are usually boring and we tend to switch off. So psychologically speaking, when we, evoke emotions, it's easier to remember it and it's easier to engage people. To work in several short iterations, to avoid using tons of tools and switching between them all the time. Make a test with a small group and then ask them for the feedback. Recognize making breaks and advice for your participants to walk and open the windows. Using breakout rooms, that's quite interesting that we are using it here. Short performances, poem recital, etc. to get started, to set the mood, so kind of a icebreaker, and have a designated moderator, not involved in the workshop content. So that would be ideas for group 1.
1:55, excellent.
Thanks, guys, for not throwing more ideas there.
No, that was really smooth and great. And by the way, awesome outcome, given that we allocated about 10 minutes or so, which I believe is another proof for the effectiveness of liberating structures and teamwork and doing this in a proper fashion. Okay, team number 2.
Okay, we did not nearly as much stuff as the group beforehand, but we had some technical issues, so that's maybe the excuse. So our topics were how teams can work together and handle conflicts remotely, with the premises that they don't see each other and that they don't know each other, and also in the special situation to use Scrum. So we said we can use video and pictures if video is not available, establish some sort of daily routine, like short sessions in the morning to stay in contact, also visually. And we could do introductory rounds if the people do not know each other, maybe in the breakup session as well. Provide and explain the people who are participating with a diagram or slide with roles, tasks, and know-how. And we didn't come up due to time constraints with a solution for special situations to use Scrum. And yeah, but that's our finding.
Okay, team number 3.
I can go. We tried to summarize all of the different points and figure out what they had in common. And we decided that the commonality was a struggle with teaching people about agility while being remote. And we had a few, I wonder why that third thing that we did isn't showing up there. There was a third thing. There was one suggestion to use the polls feature in Zoom to make a constellation. And a constellation is an activity in which if you were physically located, you would stand in a circle and imagine that the center of the circle is strong agreement or alignment, and the far edges of the room are not. Completely the opposite. And so if you were to use this with the Agile manifesto or principles, the question might be, how well are we doing at these things? And it's a way of teaching it. So if you'd said, take one of the principles and read it out loud, and you would ask the people to stand close to the center if they thought that you were just rocking that, and really far away if you thought that there was a lot of work to be done. And so you could use the polls feature in Zoom to have people do that. So you create a poll in advance of the meeting and have people answer from like 1 to 10, how well do you think that we're doing at this? And then show it afterwards so that you could see how people felt. And then that will give some information. So you could use that to teach all kinds of things. And then the second thing that we talked about was, if you're totally new to Agile, how do we just begin to visualize our work? And Trello was a very simple solution. We said that Jira or other tools like that are usually, we need to get the organization on board, and that takes a while to set up. But you could use collaboration tools like Google Sheets or Google Docs as well.
And of course, many of the certification trainings are also now available online. So from Scrum.org and Scrum Alliance. So also there you can send people there. And that also brings out, there are learning management systems. Many corporations have some of those, and they will provide additional tools for interacting with distance learning.
Thank you. So team number 4.
Well, we also made a small summary. First, how to involve upper management in remote and agile Scrum, and also how to stay focused in working. Well, currently mostly remote. To get to the upper management involvement, is we discussed that we should get management involved in online training using the very same tools that we're using, processes and behaviors. If we have them working our way, then they will start understanding the way Agile for us will work. But we also have to listen to them, what their concern is with our Agile Scrum way of working. Probably their ad hoc way of working. It has some, well, idea behind that. A way to get to do that is to get a coach, an external person that gets a mandate to actually do their job in getting the Scrum running. In that way, they actually pay a lot of money to get themselves involved. That is interesting to do. There's only one problem, and this needs a budget. So getting to the focused part is we need to make some agreements and make explicit what we should do and do not do in remote meetings. So basically have some kind of stand up and somebody actually saying, well, stop, take it offline. Well, online, but in a different session. We must make sure that we don't have too much distractions from home. And so kids running around, we should get, for example, a do not disturb flag. If the kids run by, then they should shut up if this flag is on your desk. That is basically it.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, team number 5.
Well, I'll go ahead. We had 5 points in this cluster and decided to concentrate on 3 that were very similar. So how to exchange with other participants and how to improve communication within the organization. Then we said we could try to have informal meetings remote too. So have a coffee break or book a lunch. I mean, as you haven't seen your colleagues for 2 weeks, this would probably happen on the fly or on the floor, and you could start doing that. Then somebody said that they have that and they called it a Corona chat. So because everybody is kind of involved, and just to have these 5 minutes a day to talk about it. Then somebody also said they attached it to the daily stand-up, so that everybody would bring a coffee or a tea to the daily stand-up. And you could do that in the morning to start the day, but we also do it to wind off in the evening. So we stop the team that works together, ends it with a call. And then we said that it would be helpful to turn the camera on, and because we're probably not so used to it because we do WebEx and conf calls, we should do it ourselves as well, like leading by example and just put the camera on no matter what. And then a bit of a funny idea would be to show your working environment, because everybody's sitting at home, which is not the way we usually see each other. And then you could indeed show your cat or show your child or show your living room to make people feel more at ease. And we think that this would also improve the formal meetings that people would have afterwards.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, and the last team, number 6.
We had kind of 2 questions, which we didn't really got what the link between is. So we came up with 2 answers. So the first one, really alignment between PO and development team. Nobody really felt in a similar situation. So for us, it was pretty clear: stick to the plan, to the rules, use all the standard Scrum events. So you really make sure you have your daily stand-ups, you have your backlog refinements and all those kind of ceremonies in place, and start using collaboration tools like, for example, Zoom or whatever we're learning today. So I think that was for the first bullet point. On the second one, which goes a bit back to what Theo was just mentioning, get people to turn on their camera. I think this is key, but on the other hand, we also have to understand that this is not comfortable for everyone. So let's explain what is the benefit if people turn on their camera. Also help them by some tools like the green screen or background that you can change. Yeah, and kind of minimize the excuses to support as well colleagues by having it turned on. So part of it can be a working agreement, not in all the country, you can push that through, but really explain them how that helps to the conversation.
Good points, particularly the culture issue is certainly critical. I mean, we're all from a rather similar cultural background, so what's agreeable among us doesn't have to be agreeable if you, for example, have colleagues working in Manila or in some other part of Southeast Asia. But this is complete different other topic that you would need to figure out how this is going to work within your organization. How supportive is your culture? There's a lot of things that you will need to discover on your own. Okay, good. We gather data via impromptu networking. We use the lean coffee to aggregate, cluster, and rank it. Then we had an open space with breakout rooms. And now we had a quick shift and share to present your 50% solutions. And all of this in less than 2 hours. And despite all the troubles we had, it's sort of working. You know, it will improve certainly by every week from now on. But I think the basic idea, like the manifesto saying, so the best form of communication is face-to-face, seriously needs some reconsideration, I believe. I mean, 2001, that was pre-Skype. There was no way of handling this in this manner that we are able to do this now. Don't get me wrong, I like to do in-person communication by all means. I totally love this. But if the circumstances are the way they are at the moment, I believe this is at least a viable option to actually handle things. So what else have we got here? Lessons learned. Just 5 minutes from my side before we start working on our parking lot. I like to have scripts. This is the big Excel sheet in the background that details, okay, what is supposed to happen when, how long, how much time this might consume, or where do I link to, what slides am I using, what URLs, and what copy do I need to have to actually paste into the chat so that people have a direct possibility to understand what we're talking about. So I really love these scripts. And it's an excellent way of doing the planning in advance. My biggest lesson so far is that working completely remotely requires simply a lot more planning in advance and organizing and documenting. You will spend more time at the desk, no doubt about that. It's not just let's grab my toolbox and a few stickies and Sharpies and then show up somewhere and I will find something that I can do anyway. You know, this is working if you're co-located, but it's not working here. So you need to put time upfront into this. Teaching blocks, keep them short, so 5 minutes max, no longer, because otherwise people get bored. It's like being back in school, and we like to avoid that at all costs. Time boxes, be strict with time boxes, because otherwise this whole thing is getting out of hands. real whiteboards, I already mentioned that. I cannot recommend to use them the moment you start working in a virtual environment. Please use some kind of online whiteboard. There are plenty of those out there, and you can use all different applications for that purpose. Although I like to come back to the one mentioning, keep the number of applications you're using at a minimum. I also tend to be more frugal on that side. I rather have a tool that's not perfectly suited for the task if it allows me to keep the number of tools we're using at a minimum. So as I mentioned before, Miro, Mural, great applications, but they require training so that people get comfortable with them. You can't expect them to jump just in and do this. Toolbox for your gear. This is what I also recommend is if you're, for example, working in a larger building and you're running these kind of remote sessions several times a day, just get a toolbox where you can put everywhere from cameras to cables to adapters to power supplies. It's so helpful and it's simply reducing your stress levels. Lessons learned part 2. Anticipate a lack of preparation. I can remember when I was organizing a lean coffee for the soon to be established change agent group for a larger transformation. So there were about 15 people who were interested in becoming change agents for the agile transformation that was lurking around the corner, so to speak. So I created let's get together and get to know each other a bit so we know who we're talking about. And I organized this in the form of a lean coffee. So I sent out an email. I explained what the lean coffee would be. I put in a link to a YouTube video, how this is working, the application we would be using. So from my perspective, it was prepared. And the moment we started, I mean, I have to say it was a hardcore traditional engineering company, right? That they were simply completely unagile. The moment we started, everything was falling apart. No one had read anything about this. They were asking what we were doing. Some people were pointing out that there's no agenda. And I thought to myself, okay, why are they asking for an agenda? We're running a lean coffee. It's the nature of a lean coffee that we don't have an agenda because we create them now. And so someone was totally unnerved by the time boxing, you know. So long story short, after 30 minutes, I just stopped the meeting. I said, okay, we need to find a new approach here because this is not working. You know? And in the evening, I got an email from my vice president, and he said, yeah, don't worry, but they're talking bad about the session today behind your back because labels reaching from incompetent to worst meeting ever, right? And I thought to myself, oh boy, this is going to be a long journey, right? And we're just at the beginning. So seriously, anticipate that people are not prepared. No matter how much time you put into your emails for the preparation, it probably won't happen. That's another reason why you need to be there early, or even have a pre-workshop tech setup session, you know, so you can actually talk one-on-one with everyone who's supposed to show up the next day so that you can go through the stuff, if things are working, if they have access to the documents, etc. Engage silent people. The moment we're in the big room, it's more command and control by the facilitator. I'm personally not a big fan of that, but sometimes it's the only way to handle it. So reaching out to people, breakout session. Christian, Ken, Linda, Serge, who would like to start introducing us to your findings? And just to get it, it's a bit teacher-like, but sometimes it's necessary. The problem is also becoming too pushy as a facilitator. You have to walk a fine line between being engaging on the one side and on the other side, starting to command and control the whole thing. This really depends on your culture, on who is participating. You need to find your own level there. It just requires practice and probably failing a few times here and there. And lastly, adhere to the prime directive. I always expect that people are here to do their best and that they're willing to participate and get engaged and that they're bringing the best of them to the session. And if it's not working out, I first ask myself, what did I do to contribute to this participant not being as engaged as he or she could be? And then reaching out and asking, okay, is there any way I can support or help you? So it's shortly after 6 o'clock. Actually, we would need to have another break. However, given that we're all professionals and dealing in the same area, I thought we skip the break. It's a good experiment too, to figure out how this is to do this 1.5 hours in a row and get back to our parking lot. You should still have access to the Fun Retro board, this one. And what I would like to do, to ask you to do, is basically the next 5 minutes come up with questions that you would like to see discussed. Because after those 5 minutes, we will start a quick lean coffee again. So do some voting on this and then start discussing hopefully the top 2, 3, or 4 issues. So about 5 minutes figuring out new topics. Would that be sufficient? So at the moment, we just have one ticket on the parking lot. And if something has come to your mind that you would like to know more about, put it on the parking lot. And then we have a voting again and start discussing them top down. Okay, please come to an end. And I will enable the voting again. So please vote.
Shouldn't we do something like a clustering before?
Yeah, if you come across, just cluster them on your own initiative. Okay, so view votes, and please think about that you have to order them by hand on sort votes. Okay, do you need more time? Because otherwise the number 1 topic is overview virtual collaboration games. So now we can, oh, perfect. Someone renamed the columns. Okay, shall we start with 2 minutes and then see if we continue?
To do what now? Sorry.
We run a lean coffee, so we're going to discuss in the big group here. This is also going to be an interesting experience. This topic, and after 2 minutes, we decide what we would like to continue discussing it.
Ah, okay.
Okay, clock is ticking.
Discuss means what? Just give your opinion on it? I'm sorry, I'm completely.
For example, yeah, it's the chill out phase. You know, a bit more chaotic, less structured.
Yeah, so you probably know this innovation games from Homan, and there's a video series, I think, on Scrum Alliance, where he explains how all kinds of collaboration games can be used in a remote environment. So if you go Scrum Alliance public resources, then that would be one source where you can find info.
Is there a possibility to share that link?
Yeah, please. Link sharing would be good.
Ah, thank you. That's great.
Yeah, here it is. Thank you.
Has anybody done a virtual collaboration game before?
Yes, we did a scribble.io. So that is really fun to get everybody warmed up for whatever meeting. This one.
So Stefan mentioned some of these tools like this whiteboard Miro or Mural, and on those sites you will also find examples how to use them. So some of these examples might also be applicable.
Yeah, they tend to have a lot of templates prepared for all different sorts of stuff. That's really the nice part that you get on top of it. So shall we continue discussing this topic or shall we move on to the next one?
Can you share the link for this mural or mirror?
I wrote a blog post last week that is linking to Lisette Sutherland's list of resources and tools. That one is epic. I will send that in the email tomorrow so you can have a closer look.
Thank you.
Okay, so lean coffee, we move that to done and we take the next one. And the whole thing starts over again. It's another 2 minutes, this time on links to favorite online tools for distributed common, for example, ideas which tool can be used for exercises, explaining. It's rather similar to the first one we ended with, right?
Yeah,
So
I really like, I really like Trello and Jira for online collaboration. Well, basically with the team. But
yeah, for example, on LinkedIn or Coursera and so on, there are plenty of free courses how to become an online instructor. So, and they typically will talk also about learning management systems and authoring suites, you know, like Moodle or Kahoot and all this kind of stuff. So there are plenty of free resources. So we'll just Google how to become a virtual classroom teacher or how to do distance learning and you'll get some resources.
We have used retrospectives. We have used Mentimeter. This has a free version and a version you have to purchase. And the free one, you can always prepare 2 slides as a facilitator, for example, for visualizing entries, ideas for collecting data, and then you can do votings, rankings, stuff like that. It's actually relatively fun at the beginning. People get tired of it, but it's fun in the beginning. It works with codes where people can connect from the mobile phones or from their computers, wherever they are, and do their entries. The facilitator can decide if there's one entry possible or various entries from the people, so you can kind of modify it a bit.
And it can be run completely anonymously.
It can, sure.
I think the same as Team Retro. It's like a bit more, maybe more functionalities than Fun Retro. At least it seems to be.
Well, that's a tempting.
It's not difficult. I mean, the free version of Fun Retro is it's a lean coffee tool, right? But it's okay for that purpose.
But I think Retro has pretty much all the functionalities that we just covered with Fun Retro. But there are more. So there are more scenarios. What you want to cover in retrospective. There are like 4 or 6 of them, so you can choose like, okay, do you want to, I know what went well, less well, and what you want. Or you can switch it totally and you can just do like, I know, just brainstorming session or just sharing like comments. So it's quite cool. And I think also the design of it, it's much more intuitive. It's very easy steps, are really big, so you can't miss anything. Everything is automated, so it's really nice too. Plus we have, I think, the summary sheets at the end, so you can literally finish Retro and just download PDF summary of it with all the action points and all the ideas that were mentioned during the meeting.
Check out retium.com. They're supposedly free until the end of April. I believe it's a good tool. However, after that, you can only use it if you're willing to license it. But nevertheless, they have some interesting things. For example, these spider graphics that we were talking about earlier as a polling tool. This is really nice. So, for example, regularly check in on your Scrum values and the perception within the team, how this is evolving over time. So there's a lot of things you can actually do this way, significantly easier than by comparison to doing this by hand.
So one thing, somebody asked about how to document things before, how to do that. I do lots of screenshots, because if you have good slides, whatever tool you use screenshots, give it a headline and put it in.
Yeah, also many video tools allow recordings, so if that's okay, might also be an option to store stuff.
Yeah, need to create a lot of data, but yes.
Okay, I think we have time for one other. That's the big one here. How to handle conflict. Okay, so let's take a 4-minute box for that, and then we'll wrap up.
There was no conflict today, huh? That do not appear so much, I have the impression, compared to in-person meeting. It's really
maybe not in your group.
Isn't that bad? How do you handle conflicts then, Johannes?
Well, I think there is something like telephone and remote personal coaching, and I guess similar techniques can be applied here. So just the solution-focused questions you would ask if you were face-to-face might also be suitable on a video or on a telephone call.
I would rather use a video call because you have way more input. You can see body language and all that stuff.
Would you recommend to do this always one-on-one, so not to have a conflict break out in such a video session like that one?
Depends on the context, right?
I mean, if it's something that affects the whole team, I would keep it within the team, but we had some issues that could be narrowed down to like 2 participants only, so then we would take it offline after whatever was concerning the whole team. So yeah, I think it depends on the situation very much.
Would you take a moderator then, or a mediator? Better.
I can share with you also a little link of Judy Rees, how to convince, let's say, your team members to switch the video on, focusing on the benefits that everyone could get. Maybe someone finds it interesting.
So 26. I have to close the session in about 3 to 4 minutes. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this was helpful to you to get a understanding how simple things might be, even from a perspective of tools that you use. I haven't yet come up with a free substitution of Zoom with its breakout rooms that is simply not working at the moment. On the other side, the application is offering so much advantages that I believe it's worth spending 12 euros, 15 euros, something like that per month on it. It's really, really helpful from my perspective, and I do not regret paying for it. I hope you have a better understanding how liberating structures work online, and that you really can weave liberating structure strings like you would do in the normal setup, meeting people face to face. It is really working. I like to keep them simple, also as far as applications are concerned. I'd rather have a simple application everyone can use than a more suited one that some people feel uncomfortable with. And otherwise, I believe most of it is common sense, and you just have to give it a go and try it on your own. And you get better with more practice. That's simple it. What's helpful to me has been writing scripts, so planning a bit in advance. It's taking a bit of the, at least from my perception, a bit of the complexity out of the equation. But on the other side, as you can see, always is something happening that you do not expect. You know, prolonged technical issues, etc. pp. I think that's just part of the game. So I will send you an email tomorrow morning, including also files that I download from the Google Docs and the other links, the Excel file for the script, etc. pp. And well, I hope that was useful to you, and please get back to me if you have any questions.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot. It was a great
Thanks a lot. Yes.
Thank you.
It was great, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
Nice evening. Bye.